have Colombia with us? We do. Okay, Lauren is from Colombia. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I think we just started the recording and we are officially in business. So without further ado, let's give the floor to Patricia for her to take us into the meeting. Patricia.
Thank you, Francesca. So to start with, I just want to wish and extend a very warm welcome to all members joining us today and other colleagues. Thank you so much. We want to acknowledge it's very early or very late. For everyone. So again, thank you, and for also your continuous support and participation to the expert group on innovation and modernizing ways to collect time use statistics. As most of you know, my name is Patricia Ohl. I'm the Time Use Survey Manager at Statistics Canada and the newly appointed responsible for the Care Economy project. And I'm chairing this expert group on time use. So today marks a huge achievement as we conclude the methodological development phase of the expert group from our terms of reference. And this is by presenting the revised UN guide to producing statistics on time use and accompanying time use data resource hub to help countries in building national capacity and provide technical assistance as requested by the Statistical Commission. So during the 3.5 days, countries and agencies will share the latest experience, the lessons learned, and future projects they have, and provide an opportunity for members and also other countries to exchange, ask questions on the different topics. So I'll let Francesca now to walk you through the agenda for the next 3 days. So Francesca.
Thank you, Patricia, and a very warm welcome from the UN Statistics Division 2. I'm Francesca Grum. I'm the Assistant Director at the UNSD, where I also lead the demographic and social statistics programs. And again, it's a great pleasure to being able to spend the next 3 days or part of the days with all of you. You remember that the group was established quite some time ago, right? I think we've been working together since 2018. We have delivered and achieved one of the major accomplishments, as Patricia just mentioned, the revision of the UN guide for producing statistics on time use. And now we are also ready to discuss the next steps. So over the next 3 days, we have packaged the sessions at different times of the day so that we can really accommodate our experts joining us from very different regions in the world. Today we have the morning session. I'm talking about the New York Times, where we will take stock of the latest initiatives and the developments both at the countries and international levels. So all these new developments to improve the way we produce time use data, we produce time use statistics, and we communicate, we use and communicate this important set of information. We'll start with a session where we learn from countries. We have Italy, we have Mexico, we have Canada, we have Morocco presenting in the morning. And then on the following session, always today, we will also take stock of latest developments in international agencies. So we'll hear from ILO, from UNICEF, and from Eurostat, international and supranational entities. Tomorrow we'll move to the afternoon for New York, so that again we can facilitate the participation from Australia, New Zealand, and that part of the world. And at that point, we will share with you the latest set of guidelines for producing time use statistics and also the accompanying time use resources hub. That's a way for us to thank you for your dedication over so many years, for being with us, for accompanying us, and for sharing all the knowledge and experience that your countries and entities established, developed, and that you believed was an important addition to the global discussion. So that's the moment when we thank you and we celebrate this new publication. Iliana will take you into the book and show the latest changes and the final format that will be brought to the attention of the Commission in a few weeks. Tomorrow will also be an opportunity for us to start discussing how we are going to implement the guide, how we can really make sure that all countries are aware of these latest developments on how to produce relevant and high quality data on how people spend their time using the latest technology and building on the experience of all the countries and other experts that have contributed to this publication. Then we'll move into day 3, that's the last day. I'm talking about Thursday, where we'll go back to the morning session for us, for New York, where we'll have a brainstorming session on uses of time use statistics. And in particular, we will look at how time use data can measure and can inform care work. So including unpaid out-of-service work and including supervisory care. And then again, we'll have a mix of experts from countries and the international organizations sharing with us the latest developments in this area. We will then conclude, actually we have another session where we invited a few groups that also report to the Statistical Commission and that have a huge interest in collaborating with our group, the group on time use surveys. I'm talking about the Intersecretariat Working Group on National Accounts. They have a subgroup on well-being and sustainability statistics, and they will join us to share with us where they stand in the ongoing revision of the system of national accounts that is planned to be discussed and approved by the Commission in 2025. So it's important to see the synergies between their group and ours. So we're very happy to have them there. And us as Secretariat, we will also share with you the latest developments within a new mechanism that is called Friends of the Chair on Social and Demographic Statistics, a new mechanism established by the Commission a couple of years ago, because again, there are a lot of common goals between the work of this group. It's a group of 10 chief statisticians and the work that us as a group have been promoting over the last 5 years. And finally, we will conclude with a brainstorming on what's the way ahead for us and what collectively as an expert group reporting to the Commission we want to develop in our next steps. So that's all. Let's start. Let me check first if there are any questions or any other points that our experts want to make. Otherwise, I think we are perfectly on time and we can start with our first technical session. Okay, so I think it's me again, the chair. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Session 2, where our experts will update the group on the latest developments, innovations, and plans to improve time use data collection. So I'm going to invite Italy, is the first one to go. We have with us Tania Cappadozzi, who is the time use and measurement of voluntary work survey manager in ISTAT, the Italian National Institute of Statistics. Tania, you have the floor, maybe 15 minutes. Thank you.
I try to share my presentation. Can you see?
It's coming up on my side, let's see. Yes.
Yes, okay. And hello everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to let you know about my country innovation plan. And as you can see from this slide, Italy has a long tradition of conducting time use survey. The first national edition dates back to 1988, and since 2002, Italy has been on its fourth harmonized edition, following Eurostat guidelines and with a survey cadence halved compared to the EU recommendation. This is because of a national law requiring monitoring gender differences in unpaid work every 5 years. And for the last edition, which has just ended, in addition to EU guidelines, it was very important for us to participate in the work done in this expert group, particularly with regard to the harmonized minimum harmonized instrument, as well we see in the next slides. In recent years, a number of problems have emerged in conducting traditional survey. That is, for time use survey, a face-to-face interview and a left behind and post-coded paper diary. Actually, some problems are common to all social household survey, and others are specific to the time use survey, which is particularly complex because of the use of daily diary, as all you know. And in the past, Italy had a very high response rate due to the legal framework of the surveys conducted through a municipal survey network and anticipated by a letter to respondent with the clear legal reference and obligation to respond. However, as you can see in this slide, it's precisely that system that is entering in a crisis. The result is that our response rates are declining very rapidly, not only because of the increasing non-response of households, but also of the increasing of non-participation of municipality in the survey network. And this is combined with the well-known problems of timeliness and cost of this survey, which are particularly evident with the use of postcode full paper diary. So it's clear that we have to change, but we cannot live of fate. What do I mean by this? I think that the goal of our innovation plan are what you can see here. So to improve ways of contacting the population, reduce the workload of the municipal survey network, simplify the survey, reduce the cost, increase timeliness, but also maintaining high data quality and maintain comparability in time series. So the solution is to make change by testing them through a cycle of pilot and test. And so the innovation strategy in Italy follow 3 strands of innovation. First, simplify the survey to provide estimates on time use at reduced intervals, so every 5 years according to the Italian law. And so we conducted the first pilot survey last year using the same technique, so paper, face-to-face paper interview and left behind diary, both with the full diary and the light instrument. Then, second, test new tools and techniques to innovate the current survey. So within the European Smart Survey Implementation Project, we will conduct a large test in autumn of this year to study mode effect, and the project is currently being defined, but the objective should be to test the following aspects. So geolocation versus self-reporting location, the use of a paper diary versus an app, Motus app, and the use of interviewers on demand, just when respondents needs the intervent of someone who help to install or explain the app. And then last, innovation is study the use of AI techniques applied to coding textual description of activities and location to improve timeliness and reduce cost in coding residual paper diaries in a mixed mode survey strategy. Because until the paper diaries is eliminated, the coding process must also be innovated. Otherwise, the overall timeliness of the survey will remain too long. So going into the title of the first pilot, we conduct that of the light diary. The goals of the pilot are less burden on respondents, less costs, and more timeliness. How? Simplifying the time use diary for respondent, so no textual description, simplifying data processing, no coding of textual description, and enabling an easy transition to online filling out of the light diary. And the object of our pilot is to assess whether the light diary can estimate the main indicators of daily lifetime as accurately as the full diary, in particular time spent on unpaid domestic and care work. And this is what the current time schedule looks like. And people should fill in the diary by describing in free text how they spend the time. And this is the light time schedule with the pre-coded information consistent with the UN minimum harmonized instruments. Are the same activities. Just we divided the direct and direct volunteering from organization-based volunteering. So we have 26 activities and not 25, but are the same. All the other are the same. And in the Italian light diary, we use just the sequence is that of the European guidelines. So remains around the clock sequence of the activity, because the first activity of the day are personal care activities like sleep, morning routine, breakfast, then work activities, then leisure activities. And in addition to the activities, we included as contextual information also the use of the internet and 6 type of location and means of transport and 3 type of people present. And for now, we still have only the response rate results for the return interviews and diaries. And there were because there were problems with the contract for recording the survey data, which we are starting just these days. And I think as soon we have more results, we will share them with the group, if of interest for you. I think it's important to continue to exchange information among us. And the first result reaches is that the light pilot survey has slightly better response rate than the full survey. So the pre-coded light diary appears to be more or less equivalent to the post-coded full diary for respondent. And I'll leave you with this last slide in which you see an optimistic picture of upcoming time use surveys in Italy. And if our innovation plan gets the desired results, I think we will have a light survey in 2028, and in 10 years, in 2023, the new full survey with a mixed mode with paper. With a technique applied to coding paper diary and an online time use full diary. So that's all from my side.
Thank you so much, Tania. So many important points that you made. First of all, congratulations, because you have been working on this modernization for quite some time, and I think the pilot results, I mean, I understand that they are just preliminary, but they are quite promising just by comparing response rates. That was one of your objectives. It seems like those are stable, but of course you are becoming much more efficient because you are lightening the content and making it easier for coding, etc. So congratulations on that, and we really look forward to receiving the full set of results once Italy is able to release them. I also note the use of AI, I think artificial intelligence in the context of coding, and particularly for time use surveys, that will be a huge improvement in how we do our business and our process. And it would be important for other members to learn from the techniques that you used, how you taught to the system, what were the conditions and the criteria that you took into account in your algorithm. So by all means, those are bits and pieces of solutions that others can copy. So whatever is Italy is able to share, I think that would be fantastic. Yes, and one last point from me. I love that Italy has also embraced the use of the MHI, the minimum harmonized instrument. So it looks like we were successful as a group, right? That's our baby. We agreed on that piece all together, already adopted by the Commission. So I'm very happy to learn about that too. I'd like to, we have 4 presenters, and I'd like to give space and get a little bit of Q&As and after each of you. Then I may adjust if I see that there is too much activity and we are running late, but for now we are doing well in terms of time. So anyone who would like to ask Tanya for clarifications or just based on what Italy is doing, add from your own experience, this is your moment. Just raise your virtual hand. Mauricio?
Yes, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I just have a question regarding the use of AI for coding. I know this is something that you're testing, and because we have been testing also the use of these techniques for a different survey. And our experience is that, of course, it saves time, but it's not as significant the time that we're saving because we have problems with the activities that are so specific or things that are not that common because of course the model is going to be as good as you can that you can learn from the information that you're providing. So we end up having to go back to people and manually coding the activity because the model has not enough information. And yes, we see an improvement, but it's not that big. So I don't know if you had the same experience, or probably we could talk about this in a different time. But I would like to know your impressions of using AI.
But we are just starting the project because we are colleagues involved in some project on big data and artificial intelligence here in our institute, and we just met them and we are very at the beginning of the process.
Okay.
But I would like to share this in coming months. I think will be more clear what we have to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if I can inject on this, I think we could also make this, using AI for coding one of our priority as we look for the next year. The expert group should spend time on this. We should pull together our knowledge, share experience, and see how all together we can help each other. From the UNSD side, I'm not talking about time use surveys now. It's more the big data experts, the data scientists that we have at UNSD. They are looking at us because they want some real example. How can we use AI in the context of official statistics? And the example of coding from time use diaries or from time use surveys using stylized questions, it's a perfect example. So they are after us to give them homework. So let's see how far we can go over the next 3 days, but I think that's already something that should be a priority for us. And we can really rely also on their skills of training, algorithms, etc. And I think we should go in that direction. But there is one question for you, Tanya, and maybe it's along the lines of what you just replied, so up to you. Cecilia congratulates you and ISTAT. And how long did the scripting take? What software did ISTAT use for the scripting?
I think it's always regarding the technique,
Coding.
but no, I can answer because we are
early.
just at the beginning. So I speak with them in few days ago because we are participating to the SNET on Smart Survey. And we are implementing an algorithm to predict the activity by the geolocation. And we are working with some experts, and we are making some tables in input to this algorithm to estimate the more probably activity that people do near some location. And so, speaking about this kind of activity, we thought together to begin also this study. So it's important to put this on our plan, but it's just at the beginning.
Beginning. But it will be important for you too if we also have a component of this work in this group, and we also each reach out to our own expert in data science, in AI, in our offices. I think we really maximize in terms of knowledge. And we can come up with some solutions that is viable in all countries, or other countries can benefit from it.
Absolutely.
So that's noted. I see Lisa from Australia who is with us. Lisa.
Sorry, takes me a while to find my mouse. Thank you, Francesca, and thank you, Tanya. That was very interesting for me. I just wanted to pick up also on the comment and the questions Maurizio asked. We, for our 2021 survey, which was also a paper-based survey, developed our own automatic coder, if you like, and we had to create training files, etc. We tried various tolerances in relation to match rates. Did it have to be 100% match rate? Did it have to, what did that produce? What did it produce with 70 and 80%? My comment would be they are a big upfront investment. We did ours in Excel, and it was very much sort of a test thing. But you do need to invest the time in training, creating the training files, and obviously over time they become more and more efficient. It turns out that we won't use it going forward because we are e-diary only, and we're going to have pick lists. But certainly it was a very valuable exercise. I don't know if I mentioned we did ours in Excel because it was just for our survey. We were also investigating for the organisation, so that has fed into some of the other pieces of work happening in our organisation.
Perfect. Thank you. All well noted. So there is another intervention, written comment from Samantha, I believe. Yes. Yes, at ILO, our constituents are increasingly asking about scope for artificial intelligence coding of open occupation fields to ISCO in the labor force survey. So the results from the Italian AI coding exercise will also be very welcome more broadly, right? It's not just time use surveys, it's also labor force. And again, as I said, it's not just us as a community of experts on time use, statistics and surveys. This is the use of AI in the context of national statistical offices, in the context of household surveys. It's very much at the top of the list of items to be addressed collectively. So this is all good and all well noted. If you allow me, let's move to presenter number 2, because this is just the beginning, but I'm proud of you. It's early in the meeting and everybody is already excited. So Patricia, you get the floor and you take us into the Canadian experience. Everybody knows our chair, Patricia Hall, who is the Time Use Survey Manager at Statistics Canada. Patricia.
Okay, I've shared my screen. Can you see it? All good, perfect, thanks. So thank you very much, Francesca, and thank you, everybody. This is our newest experience of collecting time use. It was delayed because of COVID as it was supposed to be collected in 2021. So we've moved, and this is our collection in 2022. So quickly, I'll go through what we've done different for our development in 2022. I'll talk to you about the collection and processing challenge that we've experienced. And since the data hasn't been released yet, we'll go to some observation I can share with you. And some will be of interest, especially for a certain group. So starting in 2017, Statistics Canada decided to develop only one application for mixed mode collection. So each of the different CAWI, CATI, CAPI will have extension to be able to use exactly the same application. So for that, it provides some other challenges, and since we need to have compliance with common look and feel, images or any such visual functionality cannot be used, which sometimes for a diary, it has its limitation. So even at first, we weren't sure if we would have been able to do a diary in the current platform, but we actually did. So what we've done for 2022, we've started developing the electronic questionnaire. We've been able to use the EG-TUS 2016 and adapted the classification for the Canadian context. For sure, we needed to test the terminology. We had a previous experience in 2015 where we had a light diary being done. But the reason of the light diary, I think we were using 63 codes only, is that everything had to be coded in one single page. So having 200 or 190 some codes was just not feasible. So this new tool now allow us to have way more, so we could reproduce the EG-TUS. And actually, the new EG-TUS 2016 was very similar to what Canada had used previously as its coding tool. So while we were doing qualitative testing to ensure that everything was fine, respondents were understanding terminology correctly, we also found out that some high-level categories had to be separated because people didn't know where to go. So for example, in the personal care, sleep had to be separated from other personal cares. Eating had to be on its own. And we've had to also switch. 2015, the way we had described it was mainly more like you wake up and all the different activities. This time it was a bit like this, but we've changed a little bit the order because we saw that people were striving and trying by themselves to find what it is. So to give you a little bit more context on the Canadian time use survey, we started in 1986. It has always, we never had any left behind paper diaries. It had always been through CATI. Interviewers were coding all the activities already, so we never coded. So for us in 2022, it was very different as we left, well, it was already coded, but by the respondents themselves. So it needed them to know what exactly was there. We had another category, of course, where writing in were accepted. So it was really the first time for us to go through a lot of the experience. So if I continue, so this is the example on the screen. Sorry, I didn't know how the white didn't get out really well, so hopefully you can see it. So those are the main questions of what you were doing. So the main categories are all there. And as soon as the respondent was selecting one of the main activity, then there was specific of exactly what were you doing. So even in sleeping, we had essential sleep, we had sick in bed, just resting, or stuff like that. So the example now is own personal care, where you had different activities underneath this. So for all of the high level, it was removing the lower categories. And this did help a lot respondents. So since we couldn't really add anything in the collection tool, we had prepared a lot of stuff to make the respondents understand why they needed this, complete this, what it was, how to do it. So we had made videos on how to complete this. The link to the videos were also included in the application. Did it work really well? I have doubts. People, unfortunately, didn't really click on it. We know for sure that some did, but it's not the majority. So unfortunately, it's nice, but it wasn't there. We had also a huge brochure where there was a QR code where they could also view the videos and additional information. The mode of contact, it was a letter just saying that they would soon receive an email with the link to the survey. So this kind of worked. We had tested the email previously in 2015, and we knew it was working. There's huge advantages for collection using the email because it can be programmed in advance. So you can divide all your 7 days within email bunches where it's being sent the day after. We always collect retrospectively in Canada. So the day after their reference day, the email was sent, and within 48 hours, most respondents are completing it. Otherwise, it goes with, we have 3 reminders following every week. So the pattern is being kept, and this is one of the observation we have. It's smooth the processing feature. It's the first time where the methodology didn't have to do so much in trying to readjust for the days. It really follows this. And within the application, they also have the day. So for which day do they have to answer this? So those are the links. So if you only go here at www.can.gc.ca/diary, you'll have access to all the information. You can watch them. So there's one video on what is a diary. The other one is how to complete it. And then the other one is how to provide the simultaneous activities. So ensuring that people were not combining all activities together. So what have we learned from this? So the collection was divided in 12 months for the full year. Each month had between 28 and 35 days. Most of the stuff that we did before wasn't changed. So the pre-assigned reference day to each of the household. In Canada, it's 1 person per household that is being collected, and the diary is only for 1 single day. So the 7 days are divided to have equally representing the weekend and week. As I mentioned, it was email letters that were sent in advance. to make sure that people knew about the email invitation. We were not allowed to strictly go to email invitation without a letter. Or the CATI, because we still had a component of CATI. We were sending letters, and in those letters, so those were people where we didn't have an email address for them. There was a link to the application. This is the way, the standard way StatScan now sends invitation to respondents. It's through a letter where there's a link and an access code provided to the household. For that, for sure, we had to switch, so we couldn't keep it as a specific day. So for the CATI portion, we had to revert to a yesterday method. Otherwise, it was just too difficult. We cannot send something and hope that the respondents will really do it for the day they were assigned. So that was easier. So on a certain day, which was the CATI collection start point, everything was reverted to yesterday. So even the EQ portion, if they hadn't done their stuff, their diary, it was then saying yesterday instead of the reference day. And this didn't cause too many problem. We just ensured that whatever was during the week remained in the week and weekend on the weekend. And for this, we've included the Friday within our weekend days. Oops, here. Okay. Oh, I think no. Sorry. So to be accepted, the diary needs at least 3 episodes. It needs to have a full 24 hours worth of activities. So for sure, we were able to make it, the application could be programmed to make it to 24 hours, to meet the 24-hour condition. But for the number of activities, that was not possible. So we have put edits, making sure that they had at least 3, well, anyways, trying to make sure that they had 3 activities. So after 12 hours of activities, they had a message saying that, are you sure that you really did it for 12 hours? And this probably really helped in achieving the number of activities. So most like the average, I think, is around 12 or 13 activities per day, so which is lower than when you were doing it face-to-face or probably through the paper diary, but it's very comparable to what we had previously in 2015. I think we even increased it a little bit for the number of activities. And we also have an additional questions on eating. Believe it or not, we had found it in 2015. People forget to say that they are eating. One of the reasons is that usually they are eating while doing something else, and since we're only collecting one simultaneous activity, people will tend to add other activities than eating. And then we were recoding all the eating information back in the survey. I'll show you the questions coming. The recoding of activities was huge. People have a huge tendency of combining everything together. So one example I can give you is the where were you was in my car traveling, what were you doing shopping, and where were you, they could be back home. So it was very difficult. So there was a lot of hands-on process that we never had experienced before. Based on what we had as data previously, we were able to look at, okay, the time of doing this is probably over what was over what we saw, because and then travel was less or vice versa. So we were able to recode most of the stuff, disentangling information. We do have a lot. We're asking their main mode of transportation. We're asking a bunch of questions that allowed us to be able to recode, and enough data in the past to also make sure that what we were doing or recoding was properly done to reflect the reality. We've also used all the information at the beginning, so their address or something. We did a lot of Google search. So talking about manual process, we have done a lot. The beauty is that because it was monthly, we could do it as the collection was completing. So even though it's a lot of work, it didn't delay the processing or the finalization of the files. So this is the questions, the follow-up questions for eating. So when I said that we were able to recode it within the diary after the fact, so we had the big question if yes or no. They had 8, and for how much time. So yeah, the estimation is not exact, but at least we do have a proper. So we were taking kind of always the middle for all the recoding, and exactly when. And actually, it really helps. One issue we found, and you have to be careful, I would say, is starting at 4 a.m., what were you doing when sleeping? People forget that the amount of sleep is from 4 to whenever they wake up. So we would probably go ahead for the next one and asking starting at 4 o'clock, what were you doing? And if it's sleeping, to attach it with at what time did you wake up? We had a lot of very long sleep episode, and having those questions here saying that yes, they ate breakfast, we knew, like, probably they said 8 because they woke up at 8, and everything made sense. So we were able to shift and add the time by subtracting some of the sleep time based on all the information we had. So talking about recoding that we never had experience before, that was something. So going and almost done. What we've observed so far, there is a collection mode effect. We had a complete switch from CADI into EQ, so over 70% of our respondents are EQ now, and that brings also some effect. So a strong effect right now for the childcare. So when I'm saying that you'll be happy, as I said, we've changed. So what were you doing? Caring for household member came very close to own personal care, or at the top of the list, where before, usually what were you doing is like, I wake up, I go. I think we had household task before that in the past. So we've seen an increase in the childcare, and what was also found is that the household task became as simultaneous activity. So I think we always looked, and anyways, the supervisory care was there to try to add, because we knew there was not enough caring for household members. Sometimes we're just not affected, so showing it first. So probably questionnaire design effect, but it did bring the caring up enough that probably we'll have a note saying that be careful to compare with previous years. Another very strong effect, and that is due to 2 things: the placement in the questionnaire, as well as having the respondents auto-coding their own stuff. If you see, it's under mass media. Television is quite far. Also, it's not the first thing on the list. So if people were just trying to find television here, they haven't found it. So we see a decrease in television, which in the CADI version, both caring and television haven't seen a difference. So unfortunately, we do not have the budget to test to make sure that our hypothesis of questionnaire design effect played a really big role, but everything is pointing to this. So one thing that we would have liked to do is having a pilot where we could have monitored this, but unfortunately impossible. The rest, no big changes. Once everything recoded, shopping, transportation, and all that. Yes, we saw a diminution in transportation, but also related to the fact that we have more teleworkers now. This is where we saw it. Oops. So, in conclusion, the innovation route we took was good. We were able to use EG-TUS 2016, so that will be continued in the future. The material we've created, we will certainly be able to reuse. It will still be valid. Nothing will change whether we go with a minimum harmonized. Well, anyways, we can remove one if it's a minimum harmonized because of the simultaneous, but otherwise, it's there. So feel free. The videos will be shared on the hub. So feel free to reuse if you feel that it's needed. Sorry. But we are facing also challenges. The collection is what is an issue for everybody. I think for some countries, having face-to-face interview is not as huge because you have the explanation, which we don't have, we never had. And of course, the standards or the building of the instrument and the platform for collection is standard. So trying to put something with very specific collection issues in the standard platform doesn't always work. For us, it was the post-collection recoding of diaries, and no, we haven't used IA, and one of the reasons we haven't is that we didn't have anything to start with. So you have to build your IA. We had no idea how people were writing down stuff, and we thought that the pre-coding was there, but the pre-coding doesn't help in completely do the stuff. So recoding will be necessary. And the transcomparability, as I mentioned, we do have some issues mainly due to the difference in the respondents, as well as the change in the questionnaire layout. So thank you. And if any countries have anything that they would like to have more information, don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to look on our websites what we have developed. Oops.
Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. That was also excellent, and thank you for being so frank and sharing with the group, lessons learned and the many challenges that you faced during the last time use survey in 2022. I just point out all the huge efforts that Statistics Canada did to reach out to the respondents and making sure that they understand the value of time use data, and hopefully, as a way to improve response rates, but also the importance that you highlighted very well, the importance of recoding activities and the huge amount of work that that part of the process entails. So we shouldn't underestimate the work that goes in that component of the production of time use statistics. And yeah, I was fascinated also in hearing that it's about the content of the activities that you have in your list as you pre-code, but it's also important to realize that the position of where you put the activities will have an effect on the answers that you get. So all of this is well taken note. Going around for a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes, to see if there is any questions or comments for Patricia. Of course, there will be additional opportunities at the end. Yes, Emil from Eurostat.
Thank you very much, Patricia. Very insightful, and congratulations for the survey. I have a question. We have noticed that there are very often short travel episodes being also forgotten. How did you deal with this? Did you use any rules of thumb, for example, when it's obvious that there has been an episode of travel, like last activity is being in the office and the previous activity is having breakfast at home? Normally, this happens if the travel is rather short, but I mean, do you have any insights to share on how did you deal with this? Thank you.
Sure. As I mentioned, we have additional questions on this. So we do have a lot of questions on work, on labor force, on the mode of transportation that they've used to go, how far it is, how much time it takes, if they have congestions and stuff like that. So there's two things happening is that we also had a new portion on teleworking. So if they were mentioning that they fully teleworked, sometimes it was just a wrong, the coding of the transportation was wrong, like there was no transportation. Either they were going, bringing the kids to the bus stop, and that was kind of the transportation, which was not. Anyways, so we have 5 minutes minimum. So if we see that usually they are not doing any transportation, blah, blah, blah. So that was recoded to something else. If they had transportation, and yes, they were working on site, we had enough information. And as I mentioned, because we had their address and we knew where they were working with the labor questions, we were even going through Google and pointing out how much time it should take and stuff like that, and making sure it made sense. Usually it's within, they would say that they travel, and the time is included in their work. So because we do have a lot of information, it was easy to disentangle. Not having those information, that would be a challenge, really. If you go straight and you do have previous information, I would take the US example where their respondents are coming from another survey where they do have all the information. It's not handy. Like they have to go and recover those information to be able to, or they would have to be able to recode. So for us, it was quite easy. We could, at some point, we were also looking at the daily batch received and recoding directly in the, well, we couldn't recode in the file, it was afterwards. But this is something, if you do have a process that would allow you to directly recode in there, that would save a lot of time as well. So there's a couple of ways, but yeah. And short activities, you find them mostly in the simultaneous. The question was how much time you spent on this, but it was not the exact amount of time because that's becoming very burdensome. So there was ranges, so almost no time, which usually accounts for very, very few minutes. Every time we were asking, it's about a fifth of the time. When it's up to an hour. After that, if they say more than 1 hour of activities and they said almost no time on another, this is something that we still need to check how much time we want to address, to assign to those. So yeah, it's being missed, and that's one of the reasons we have a lower, like around 12, 13 activities compared to almost 20, 21 in CADI, usually when you do have someone.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Patricia, for the clarification, and Anil for the very good question. Let's move to our next presenter. So now we are moving to Mexico, and I'm happy to introduce our colleague, Mauricio Rodriguez, who is the General Director for Sociodemographic Statistics at INEGI, Mexico. Mauricio, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just tell me if the presentation is showing.
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for being here and for the invitation. I'm going to share you some of the updates that we have in our national time use survey in Mexico, ENUT. Just a little background information. We have a good tradition on time use surveys starting in 1996. But something important that happened was that in 2014, 2019, we have surveys with the same methodology. We didn't change significantly one survey to the other. And since it was an independent survey, it became what we call it at INEGI in Mexico, information of national interest. So once a survey reaches this category, it becomes not only important for INEGI, but also it becomes it's mandatory for all ministries and people doing policy to use the information that comes from the survey. But also it has priorities in budgeting, which is something important because, for instance, this year we have some budget adjustments, and ENUT was saved from that adjustment. But also every change that we make of the survey, we have to assess the impact of these changes. And it's a long process that we had to follow. And this morning, for me, I know everybody is like in different places. I'm going to share with you all the process that we're following to update information for the ENUT 2024, which we will be collecting by the end of this year. So the news that we have is, as I was telling you, was declared information of national interest in 2002. So in order to update the questionnaire that we have, we don't use diary, we use harmonized question, we use questions to collect the information to specific activities. We had to open a public consultation last year in May of 2023, essentially to identify new needs for information about time use, but also to harmonize information with the conceptual design to update a lot of the things that we knew we were lagging behind, and essentially to collect all the requirements that we have for every user. After that, in November of the last year, we have these, what we call the statistical test. Essentially, we go to the field and we collect information using the questionnaire that we had and the new questionnaire, and essentially assessing the differences in the information that we're collecting. For example, changing the order of the options so people could choose one or the other. So we have to measure the impact that creates that change. And we will be implementing our time use survey in October. We're starting the collection, and hopefully, right now we are analyzing the results from the two questionnaires that we have. So how do we do this public consultation? Essentially, we open a website. At the INEGI's website, we open a section where people can just create an account, essentially just log in and provide their insights and their request for new information. That is open to anyone in not only the country, but everywhere in the world. But essentially what we usually get are inputs from people in Mexico. But we also have meetings with specialized users. Academia is an important one, but also we have the collegiate bodies that we have in INEGI and the National System of Statistical and Geographic Information. So we have specialized meetings with these specialized groups. We receive lots of requests from organizations, institutions, civil society, essentially asking us to include new topics. And as I was telling you, after the consultation is closed, well, the time that we have to receive all these requests, it's open for a month. Then we start analyzing the viability of these requests, and we end up with a new questionnaire, and that is the questionnaire that we test. So what we have, essentially, just to mention some of the meetings that we had last year. So we have the Specialized Technical Committee on Information with a Gender Perspective, which is an important user of the information that we publish from ENUT. So we had a meeting with them. We also had meetings with groups that are taking care of people with disabilities. So essentially to understand what their needs of information were, or probably what they felt that they were not represented in the survey. So we also had a meeting with them from the National University, Colegio de Mexico, and all these groups. So we ended up with 427 contributions. Most of those were they essentially asked us to include new questions or to have more answer options in the questionnaire. The second in relevance was the modification of the question, or sometimes the wording that we had to be more specific. For instance, doing something exclusively or not at the same time that we're doing something else, or get rid of that option. Sometimes it was really interesting to see all the information needs that we detected. But also the third one were some comments on methodological and even capacitation that we have for the people who are collecting the information, probably to make them more aware or to ask them to ask more than one time, probably 2 times or 3 times the same thing, so we can get more information about households and activities. Some of the new topics that were asked to be included, that we are actually including, is the use of technology, not only for work, also for studies, the impact of these technologies in the population, teleworking and characteristics of teleworking, migrant population, Afro-descendant population, LGBTQ plus population, also the impact of COVID-19 on care and the cost of this care that had to be provided, and presence of unpaid work provided by other households, not only people in the household providing care to other households, but also to be more specific about people receiving care from somebody who was not living with them. What criteria we follow to evaluate these proposals? Essentially, the information has to be useful to defining public policy or to evaluate public policy related to unpaid work, but with this perspective of making gender gaps visible. That is an important thing for us, but also to be able to create indicators to highlight the gaps in unpaid work following this gender perspective. Also, that information would be useful to the satellite accounts that we have in Mexico. We have 2 specific accounts, the unpaid work in households, but also health sectors and nonprofit institutions. They use the information that we produce by ENUT, but also that has to do with the objectives of the survey and the question that has been proven in some other surveys, or that we know that it's not going to create an issue with the questionnaire that we have. And the most important one, and I think sometimes we don't pay attention to this, is that the new proposal does not have to affect the average interview time, because it is a long survey. So we are really careful to not to extend the time that we spend asking the questions to people, so we know we get better quality in the answers. Some of the main adjustments that we are actually testing, or we tested and now we are analyzing, was just for instance, to identify a specific needs for people, people with specific care needs, but not only for disabilities, but also for illness condition that was temporary. So probably somebody was just sick for a couple of weeks. So that was the impact of that. We are following the Washington group in disabilities, but also to have the option of something that was not permanent, and to identify what's happening in that. Also, the impact of virtual or hybrid occupation and working during the week in Mexico after 2020. I think it was in 2022 when we had these changes in the law, essentially providing guidelines or regulations for teleworking and what companies have to do, essentially paying for internet and energy bills and those things if people were working mostly from home. So we want to measure the impact of that, or also to see something that we have probably in many countries has happened, that we know that more women are working from home, and that is creating again more work because you have to combine the unpaid and paid work at the same time. So we want to measure the impact of that. But at the same time, also study, we have seen a lot of increase on studying from home, different hours, different times. So this was a request that it was really popular in different groups in meetings that we have. So to include the option of having only virtually or essentially from home, or the hybrid options to study, and that is something that we also included in our test. Regarding pets, a lot of people are asking to include pets not only in this survey but also in the census, in so many surveys. So here we included essentially time that people are spending taking care of pets, but not only just regular care, but also taking them to the vet, walking, and all these activities. And of course, we're trying to keep everything based on the EG-TUS classification, so we are in line with all these things. But and another important adjustment that we were asked to include was not only going with somebody that is receiving care, but also to make the distinction between just taking somebody to the hospital or waiting with them, spending time with them, but also include the option for emotional care. And this, again, we are making the decision just by watching somebody or being there with them, listening to them, and essentially to see what is happening with these activities. And also, again, face-to-face care, like spending time with people or other people living in the household, or people just socializing with people, not only face-to-face, but also spending time with FaceTime, with family, relatives. So we're trying to see if that would be something that has an impact on the quality of the information that we are getting, or that we can get more information on that. So in general, when we contrast the ENU 2019 and the new questionnaire that we have, we ended up with 12 additional questions, which is something that we thought that it was it would not affect the time that we're spending on the survey in a significant way. So most of the new questions were, again, in the social demographic characteristics of the household, but also some of the dwelling characteristics, having internet, having streaming platforms, or something related to that. And as I was saying, in last year, between November and December, we conducted this test. Essentially, we went to the field with 5,000 households that we visited for each of the questionnaires that we had. We collected information. This is only representative of the national level, but what we are doing is having these 5,000 questionnaires of each. We were really careful to in the states that we have the offices, they are not allowed to share a space. Essentially, we keep these two teams independently. So we are confident that they are not sharing information. So we send them to the field and to collect the information. And we finished this in December. So now we are in the process of analyzing the results and to see if we have significant impacts on the inclusion of new questions, of changing the wording, or changing the options that we have. Sometimes we want to see these changes in the information that we're collecting. Sometimes we are not expecting to see these things. So after we are done with analyzing this, we have to present this information to the governing board at INEGI. And once we get the green light, then we can go ahead and have the final questionnaire for ENU 2024. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauricio. Also fascinating, taking stock of all these new developments, and in particular, you are the first one to mention the importance of reaching out to our user community and making sure, through public consultations and making sure that we get some feedback both from the general public to inform them about the use of the data, the importance of the data, but also from our specialized users and ensuring that once the data are available, hopefully they will be using the data and our products remain very much relevant. So having said that, let's see if any other experts would like to ask for comments, ask for clarifications, apologies, or have comments for Mauricio. A few minutes. We have Veronica from Chile. Veronica.
Thank you very much. Hi, Mauricio. I'm going to ask you about regarding, I know you had a survey of care specifically. I don't know if you were also trying to study if to link both time use survey and this specific survey regarding care.
Sure. We published last year the or it will be the National Survey for the Care System. That's the name in English, and NACIC is the acronym in Spanish. The information that we got from ENUT was fundamental. Was fundamental for the design of this new survey. This was actually the result of people in Mexico. Has been a really significant movement. People essentially asking for the creation of this national care system in the country. And we know a lot of the information that we have been using comes from ENUT. But a lot of the time they were like, okay, ENUT is not enough because we don't know how, for instance, an important part of that survey was information that we collected from parents and fathers essentially, but also like parents in general that were not living with their children. Like the way that they were like taking care of them, or the way that they were socializing, and even if they were providing support, economic support for kids under the age of 18, but also the impact of care in the population, like being tired, having issues at work, with problems with in relationship with their partners. So it is, I will say that we have a note with a big picture when it comes to care, like who's providing care, the time that they're spending, and those activities. And then NACIC is just zooming in to care. There are 4 specific populations, essentially children under the age of 6, then between ages 6 to 14, people with disability of any age, and then people ages 60 and older. So we pay attention to these specific populations, and then we can associate this with working, with paid work, with commuting, and it is a really rich survey. The only problem is that it was only representative at the national level, but I would say that ENUT is the big picture, and then NACIC is zooming in to care and to really trying to identify these specific dynamics. So yes, a lot of the information that we got from NACIC, we use that to support the changes that we are including in ENUT. But hopefully we'll have another NACIC in not really too far in the future. But yeah, we're really happy about the survey, but I could talk about the survey for hours, but that's the point of this meeting. But thank you, Veronica.
Thank you both. And of course, it's not time use surveys in a vacuum, right? They relate to many other surveys that your office is administering and data that are collected in different ways. So it's important also to keep in mind how to integrate the bits and pieces so that we enrich the information base that we collectively produce. I see that Patricia in the chat. Did you see Mauricio? Mauricio,
yes.
There is another question for you.
Yeah, I don't have the exact time of the survey, but it was about I think it was about 48 minutes. So so we're trying to keep it like that, like not going. We know that after 35 minutes we start losing people, at least in Mexico, I don't know if in other countries, we love to talk. And so probably 45 minutes in Mexico is a good time for a survey. We can extend the interviews that we have for ENU. They're amazing. And they're really good at keeping people, providing the information for 45, 48 minutes. After that, it gets really complicated.
Thank you, Mauricio. Okay, I don't see anybody else wanting the floor, so let's move to our last presentation for this session. And I'm happy to invite Ms. Siham Zahri, who is the head of division in the Statistics Directorate at the High Commission for Planning in Morocco. And Siham, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. Hello, everybody. It's great to be part of this meeting with you. I want to share with you some question about our next time survey. It will be in 2025, and it's an opportunity for me to share with you our question, our challenges, our how to improve our next survey. Our institution is committed to implementing a new independent time survey in 2025, building up on a previous survey conducted in 1997 and 2012, which will be an opportunity to improve the entire design and to refine the methodological design of the survey. So it will be a separate survey with the full diary, and it will be looking at how men, women, and children spend their time. We will collect contextual variables, in particular the location, with whom, for whom, and study the possibility of adding others. Also, we will collect secondary activity. The survey duration, it will be 12 months to capture seasonal variation in activities, the school calendar, and variation related to the religion. In this edition, in the next edition in 2025, we have some question and some challenges to improve our conceptual methodological. It's mean focus on two things. It's about using EG-TUS and digitalization of collection tools. So we can resume this in main points that are using EG-TUS, how to use EG-TUS and adapting this classification to Moroccan classification, and also the correspondence with national classification and EG-TUS. Also, the selection of the reference population, choosing the right group of people to study, and implementing of methodological of observing daily activity, how the best way to watch and record what people do every day. Also, how to collect information about passive cares activities, to make sure that we don't miss activities that often go unnoticed, and coding activities in relation with auxiliary variable for home, with home, location of activity. Also adapting auxiliary variable to the type of activity, and observing and coding the secondary activities. And how to measure the various forms of work in line with EG-TUS, and also the focus will be in the mode of collection, how to modernize the data collection instruments and incorporating new technology, using modern tools and technology to collect information. It will be the next time use. It will be for us an opportunity to improve our survey and to add different guidelines in our conception. The objective or the main objective is to have quality data, which will allow to quantify and to describe the various activity of the population in interaction with the various factors, and to have the necessary database to perform gender analysis, and also to establish an accurate measurement of all forms of works executed by the household and getting a clear measure of the work household are doing. And also it will be for us opportunity to have to be used as a reference for international comparability. In the end, it's all about making sure we have quality information that helps us to understand people and how things compare globally. I saw the experience of Italian experience, Canadian, and also Mexican experience. I am sure that we have answers for our question and our challenges in this experience, and looking forward to working together in this next project. Thank you.
Thank you, Siham. Thank you so much for sharing with us the plans that Morocco has to implement, to prepare for the next time use survey. I believe the last one Morocco collected the data was in 2012, so there will be quite a gap between the two surveys. But the positive, the good side of it is that you will be able to build on this wide set of experiences that this group has put together over the years. So you're not alone. We will support you for sure, and we are here to ensure that you can benefit from the latest knowledge and understanding. I'm very happy to take note that Morocco is committed to using EG-TUS 2016. That will also ensure international comparability, and also very much committed to modernizing the way you produce the data. And again, I trust that you'll benefit from the experiences of all the countries and the other experts with us in the room. So thank you for joining us today. Yes, let's see if there is any questions or any other points that our experts want to make this now.
Francesca,
Okay.
there's a question in the chat.
Yes, so I think we have Lauren from UNICEF. What age, age range of children are you collecting the time use data for?
It was 7 to 14.
7 to 14. 14, thank you.
Yeah.
And Lauren, I believe you come next in the next session, but do you want to probe on this? Anything that you want to add to this point on children?
Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity. We could probably maybe talk bilaterally about it as well. But so will you collect that data directly from the children or from their caregivers?
It's with their parents. The interview, it's in presence their parents in the interview. It's not directly with the children.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And it's Tanya with us, still with us. I believe also Italy, they go even lower in terms of collection of time use data for children.
Yes, we go down to 3 years of age, but obviously from 3 to 10 years, we have proxy response. So by parents or other adults in the households, and only we have a change for the privacy regulation. Before we have an obligation to respond for all population. Now only for adults, only for 18. So we have to see if this change makes some problems with the children's diary. I don't know yet.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for all our speakers? We still have 10 minutes or so. Iliana?
Just because Tanya was the last one, now that she mentioned the privacy, I think she said that they are going to test or try to see geolocation versus self-reporting, and what are probably the concerns about privacy when using geolocation tools.
Yes, in the SNET with the Eurostat, we are struggling with the privacy, and the position is if the respondent give you the permission to use geolocation, and if the app is requiring a confirmation by respondent, it's allowed. It's not permitted to take geolocation in without an interaction with the respondent.
Thank you. Very interesting. And hopefully, the respondent will understand the importance for them to share their location in this very safe environment. After all, your governments,
Yes.
ESTAT has a huge trust and reputation in Italy, and they will feel comfortable in sharing it, because you ask me, all the apps ask you, can we use it also when you're out of the app? I always say no.
Yeah.
But so there will be also that effort that we need to make as NSOs to make sure that they understand the difference between maybe private sector companies who are trying to use this information for marketing and selling as products. Yeah.
For the regulation, for the European regulation, the important is that the respondent can choose if confirm the geolocation or say no, I was not there.
Yeah. That's good. One last question from me, also trying to link the 4 presentations. I think some of you mentioned that you have a law that regulates the collection of time use data, but not all of you. So the 4 countries who presented, but also the other countries that are with us. By the way, I wanted to share with you that we have Australia, Brazil, Canada, Colombia, Chile, China, Morocco, Mexico, Finland, Italy, the UK, and South Africa with us. So let's do a little poll. How many of you have it, the collection at regular time, every 5, every 10, I don't know, every 3 years for Colombia? How many of you have the data collection in the national law? And I see Mauricio, you are, you probably would formulate it differently. Help me.
Yeah, I can share that, because what we have is, as I mentioned in presentation, a notice information of national interest. So according to the law of statistical and geographic information that we have in Mexico, only those surveys that are collected with a specific periodicity can be part of that classification. So it's not that by law we have to collect the information, but since we collect it periodically and we are careful with the methodology, it's part of the law. I don't know, it's kind of the other way, but yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, in your case, but still, it was the way you present it. It was a success. That's how I interpreted, right? That since 2022, you have it in what?
Information national interest.
Yes, it's considered time use surveys, and NUT is considered information of national interest. It's something to celebrate because the resources will be invested because now that survey belongs to that package.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other countries like Tanya, you have it in the statistical national law. Patricia, do you also have it? By
Not
law?
at all.
No, not now. What about the other countries?
We have in Italy, there is the maternity law that obliged the National Institute of Statistics to study and to disseminate gender statistics on difference on unpaid work. So it's a specific law, not only in the National Statistical Plan.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
For Morocco, we haven't allowed through statistical law to for the time use survey or others. We have a survey program after census. We establish a survey program for 10 years, and we do the programs if we have money to the S. But we have some survey which needed in national account. We have to do it from Kashamsen for we have to do it. But for time use, it's not a law. It's just it's a structural survey. We try to do it every 10 years.
Every 10 years. Okay, noted. Thank you also, Siham. Anybody else? The countries that haven't spoken so far? Maybe quickly.
Hello. In Brazil, we don't have a specific law also.
Thank you, Maria Lucia. Noted. That's also one of the issues, right? But we know that countries differ from that point of view. Anyone else? I think we lost Australia just because it's in the middle of the night, but we can always ask again. So don't worry, if you don't feel like speaking now, we'll be after you. We'll probably write an email to, we used to, over the years, we got this basic questionnaire where we ask you to update us on the latest changes. We may send that out too. Okay, Dilolelo confirms that also in South Africa, there is no such a law. So we are very vulnerable in that sense because the resources are scarce everywhere. And we are talking about a quite heavy survey. And so we need to make sure that the advocacy part, making the case for the importance of the data, answering so many different policy questions and research questions, the material, the advocacy material is there. We need to keep talking about it. We need to keep making the case for the importance of time use surveys or time use data, maybe, if they are collected from other host surveys as we move towards lighter solutions. Okay, so I think we are ready to take a little break. Let's don't go too far, and please come back to us. But let's stretch our legs 10 minutes. It's 9:46 a.m. in New York. So let's take 10. Let's meet at 5 to 10 for us. And wherever you are, I can't tell you what it is, but take 10 minutes and come back. Thank you. Patricia, you take over, right? Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Samantha, are you back?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any else?
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Okay. So I think we can resume. Thank you very much. I don't know if everybody is back, but the presenter at least are back. So thank you for still being with us. This is very interesting. And this time we'll go with other experiences coming from agencies or organizations. So we'll have 3 presentations. So a 15-minute time lapse for each of them. I'll do what Francesca did and probably let a little 5 minutes after each presentation for questions. So we'll start with Samantha Watson. Samantha is a statistician at the International Labour Organization. She had been and probably still is working really hard. Well, the development of the module is done, so I'll say in the past. So she has done very, very hard in developing a module on time use that can be attached to a labor force survey. They've started their pilots, and today she will let you know what is going on with this. So Samantha, go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Patricia. So I'm just going to share my screen. Sorry, there's too many things open. Okay. So today I'm going to just show a few slides, and then I'm hoping to be able to sort of demo the tool as it is in the CAPI software through the magic of technology. So I promise to keep to time, but I do think it's helpful to be able to show the tool itself. So just from the ILO's perspective, so I think people in the room are pretty aware of this now, but since 2013, the International Standards for Labour Statistics have included only provision of service work within the reference scope of activities for labour force statistics. And so when I say own use provision of services work, what that means is unpaid domestic and care work. The two are identical. It's just a slightly different terminology. So it's been there since 2013, so almost 10 years. But operationalization has lagged a bit due to the cost and complexity of the independent time use survey, we're told, by our constituents. In 2013, Resolution 1 of the 19th ICLS, which called for the expansion of the scope to include only provision of services, recognised the time use surveys as a main source of data, and also recognised the scope to combine the strands of the labour force survey and time use surveys. In 2018, so at the 20th ICLS, the ICLS, I think everyone will know, is the International Conference of Labour Statisticians, ILO was reminded by delegates of the sort of the need for guidance and methodological development related to time use methods, and ILO took up this work to develop standardized methodologies and guidance, not just on data collection, but also on analysis and use of the data generated. So the demand for the ILO really came from the constituents, so from countries primarily. So own use provision of services, you can see here, it's divided into 4 activity clusters. These are aligned with EG-TUS. Obviously, EG-TUS 16 was finalized afterwards, after 2013, and it's made reference to the forms of work framework and to the classification scheme therein. So the kind of the characteristic feature of own use provision of services, I mean, obviously all of these activity clusters can be performed as different forms of work, but the characteristic feature is that they're performed for own final use, so either for oneself or one's household members or one's family members living in other households. And the standards also set the reference period, so we have no freedom around that. So we're working with a reference period of a 24-hour day in the development of our tools. The standards also set out the indicators at a very broad level that we would need to be able to produce, and so those are headcounts, participation rates, and volume measures, notably by activity cluster. So those 4 activity clusters. The first 3 obviously relate to what's sometimes termed indirect care, and the last relating to that direct or interpersonal care. So just to show here, the corresponding EG-TUS 16 codes. So as I said, ONU's provision of services work, it's identical with the notion of unpaid domestic and care work. So at the major division level in EG-TUS, we're talking about major divisions 3 and 4. So just in terms of our instrument design, so seems like a long time ago now. The initial plan was to have a very iterative process with a lot of time for analysis and revision in between. COVID sort of put paid to the initial carefully worked out phased piloting plan. But we were able to work with countries and with research institutes to be able to conduct quite intensive and quite extensive as well piloting over a sort of 3-year period, beginning in December 2021 and ending up in September 2023. We did do a final validation exercise of the tools prior to their release in Lesotho, just because it's often the case that by the time you're finished, the final version never actually gets a test. So we did a cognitive interview series just to check it. Check that the changes we'd made hadn't inadvertently created new problems. And we also subjected the tools to expert scrutiny. I know that people in this room were involved in that, and we're very, very grateful to you. We are actually preparing a response. It's just taking a little bit of a back seat. So just the features of the add-on time use module. So the format is a hybrid light diary. For us, the target population, just because our parent survey is the LFS, so the target population is identical with that. It's the working age population, 15 years and above. The mode that we have developed for is face-to-face interviewer administered. The tool is developed in CAPI software in CS Pro, and the reference period is a 24-hour day yesterday, 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. And we do recommend probabilistic assignment of sampled household to days of the week in advance. And we do propose some postponement and substitution schemes to assist countries with national implementation. We're recommending, obviously, the minimum is 1 eligible household member, but we are saying that should be probabilistically sampled. And we've developed a CAPI protocol to be able to probabilistically select a household member from the household roster for the administration of the OPS module. Our activity timing now, we're using fixed episodes. We're doing that for a few different reasons. The first is just the way that the software works. It makes it much less error-prone process for the interviewer in comparison to open episodes. And it has big dividends at the data analysis stage. So we're keen as well to streamline not just data collection, but data processing and analysis. The activity codes, we have 41 pre-coded activities plus the specify, and they're aligned to the UN International Classification of Activities for Time Use Statistics. We trialed various different numbers of codes. The goal was really just to make sure we were getting a good level of detail without having too many codes. We wanted to avoid overuse, obviously, of the other specify code. So we've settled on 41. We have 4 conditionally activated contextual items. These are, I should say as well, everything is in line with the minimum harmonized instrument and the forthcoming EG-TUS guidelines and recommendations. So we're not departing from those. In terms of the treatment of supervisory and passive care, we do have a dedicated recovery series, which is activated on completion of the diary day. and we separately target supervision and passive care of children and adults. In terms of simultaneity and multitasking at a more general global level, we do have optional fields for countries to record multiple activities as occurring simultaneously. So during one or more of the same 15-minute episodes. This is just showing the alignment to EG-TUS. I know it's very small. This is showing the activity listing. So codes 4 to 19, with the exception of code 5, will generally relate to only provision of services. We depend on the context items to be able to classify. And then we have a sequence on codes that would be related to employment or to only production of goods. And then we have codes related to community participation, socializing and leisure. So we're covering all of the 9 major divisions, but at varying levels of detail. Obviously, the more detailed and more disaggregated codes where we get down to the 3-digit level in EG-TUS are around the owners provision of services activities. In terms of our recommendations that we have in our guidance, so we are recommending a bar and proxy response for the time use module. Some countries, despite clear recommendations do exist to minimize proxy for the core LFS survey, but some countries do have quite high levels of proxy response. So we're just making very clear that the time use module, the OPS module, should be direct response. We're also recommending the inclusion of the time dimension, by which I mean the assignment, the pre-assignment of sample units to a day of the week. And we are recommending probabilistic sampling of respondents within households. And as I mentioned, we have published strategies for the recovery of pending interviews to try and resolve the tensions that this is going to create. So just showing here a schematic overview. So you can see we have the closed episodes, so 96 closed episodes running 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. We have activity 1, so thinking back to yesterday, what were you doing at 4 a.m. and then subsequent loops are what did you do next. The until when is selected from the drop-down roster. This is optional for countries, activity 2, so were you doing anything else at the same time? So we have a series of nested rosters, so everything is assigned to a minimum of 1 15-minute roster, but within an activity block for activity 1, it's possible to be selective. The secondary activity doesn't need to take up all of the time that the activity 1 occupies. We have our conditionally activated context items, so location. We added travel reason at quite a late stage, and it was because as I mentioned, we're really keen to help streamline the data analysis, and assigning travel reasons was an area where we were getting a lot of feedback that was just very complex, and so we've assigned that additional. So that's in place of location. Travel reason will be activated when activity 1 is specified as travel. For co-presence, so obviously we've tried a few different wordings of this. There's a lot of evidence that this is very open to interpretation, so we have it so that the wording is quite specific in terms of what we mean there. And then we have full human marker orientation. So obviously as we go along the context variables, they're activated in fewer and fewer cases. And then full human marker orientation are replicated for the activity 1 and the activity 2, obviously. So those are also optional depending on whether activity 2 is included as an item in the survey. We also have our recovery section. So you can see it follows the same nested roster approach. So these will be allocated to times where the same 15-minute activities. And we divide it into supervisory care for children and supervisory care for adults. And we just record when it occurred. So the minimum obviously is one 15-minute episode within an activity block, but it can be sort of intermittent as well within those activity blocks. So that's quite a nice feature of the design. So that's everything. I'm not sure how much, if there's a minute or two left for me to demo the tool. The problem is when I'm presenting, I can't see the time. So Patricia, what do you think?
I would give you another minute. Is that enough?
Okay, that's very generous. So I just need to link my tablet to the screen, which should not take any time at all. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing here. Okay, so is it showing?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So this is what the tool looks like in the first instance. So you can see we have a little introductory script, and then we have our drop-down listing. So there's a slight delay. Come on. Okay, a drop-down listing of activities, which the interviewer selects from. So I'll just, the main feature I just want to show is just the way that we record the time. So it's just taking a second to there's just a slight delay, but it's coming. So yeah, okay. So you can see here, what we do is we just assign it to the nearest 15-minute interval. And then as we progress through, just quickly progress through, you can see that it's, it's taking a minute. It's not doing this on the screen. It's very fluid process on the actual device. It's just the casting is slowing things down. So, any second now, I think. It's okay. Sorry, I'm being let down by the technology. Okay, the point I wanted to make was that when we get into our next episode, it will have automatically updated the timing. And you can see here till 6 a.m. And then in the drop down, it's automatically updated the drop down as well, so that the next one is the nearest 15-minute interval. You can also see in the left, we're building up a record of the day as we progress through. So we have our 4 to 6 sleeping or napping, then our next activity will be there. And so we'll have a very nice listing. It's very helpful for the interviewer. I'm going to leave it there. I just wanted to be able to show you the nested roster feature. And just gives you an idea of how it looks in situ, but I don't want to take up more time. So thank you. Thanks very much.
Hey, thank you very much, Samantha. It's a nice complete overview of the modules and for sharing the results of some of your pilots and findings that you found so far. Okay, I do have a couple of questions for you, if I may. Okay, so you said that going to proxy for the module of time use is certainly not a good idea, which I think we kind of know. But going to multiple, like right now, it's only the only test you've done is only face-to-face. So going to multiple visits is it taking, like, are we talking 2 visits? So if the person is not available at the time, they're going back with an appointment, or it was multiple visits hoping to get at the person?
Yeah, so it just wants to be clear as well. So the tool it's developed for low and middle income country settings. So it's quite a narrow focus there. I don't know if I mentioned that, just so that everyone's clear. Yeah, we do recommend up to 3 visits before it's declared a non-response. So appointment can be made on the first visit or before the first visit. The countries really vary in how they do their LFS and how many revisits they allow. So it's very hard for us to be extremely prescriptive in what they should do, but our recommendation is please do avoid proxy and please do allow for up to 3 visits. That would be the advice for the core LFS as well. So where countries are doing that, this isn't so much more of a burden. But in countries, for example, we're working with some Caribbean states at the moment, they really don't allow revisits at all as standard. So the feasibility of this approach is going to really vary based on the country practices that they have and the availability of resources to modify those practices. So it is a limitation, but I think it would be a greater limitation to permit proxy for a lifetime use diary. So.
Thank you. I have other questions, but I'll let others to react. Any questions from anybody else? Lauren?
Thank you. Hi, Samantha. So great to see the work come to fruition. Curious, on average, how long do you anticipate it will take to implement the module?
Yeah, so in piloting, we had quite a big variation. One of the key issues is whether countries want to use the diary A or the diary B. So the diary B does take quite a bit longer because obviously you're gathering those simultaneous activities plus the context items for those simultaneous activities. It varies as well, so it varies by sex. It varies obviously by the extent to which people are reporting simultaneous activities. As a rule of thumb, we're saying 15 minutes. It varies quite extensively though, so but 15 minutes on average is about right to allow for. We're just implementing at scale now this year, so with Kenya, and we have a few other countries lined up as well. Obviously, that's the big risk as well. So piloting is one thing, but once we move to a full-scale implementation in a national labour force survey, it's pros and cons though, because we're going to have working with very experienced enumerators, and so hopefully the training that we develop during the piloting will help us to keep the timing down.
Thank you. To just allow everybody to go through their presentation, I'll stop questions there, and we can ask further questions at the end, time permitting. So now the floor will be to Lauren. So Lauren Pandolfili is a statistician with the UN Children's Fund. She will present results of testing of their new children diary. So it will very interesting to know how they were able to go about developing this, finding the proper wording for children. So please, Lauren, go ahead.
Thank you. You can see everything okay? Can you hear me? Yes, okay, great. So thank you so much for the opportunity to continue to update you on this work. Apologies in advance, I'm just recovering from COVID, so hopefully I do not cough my way through the presentation. This is made on behalf of myself and Eva Quintana, who's our mixed survey specialist within UNICEF, who unfortunately couldn't join us today due to a conflict. Excuse me. So, I mean, many of you have seen this presentation or parts of it at different fora and meetings. So I'll just very quickly go over the objective, what we've aimed to do, why it's important, we feel, to measure children's time use, and then really focus on challenges and considerations for integrating a children's time use module into a multi-purpose household survey such as MIX, an overview of the field testing we've done and what we've learned from it, and then next steps, where we are now and where we're going, of course. So really the objective since 2017, when I was actually still at UNSD before I joined UNICEF, has been to develop a household survey module measuring children's time use at the population level for inclusion in the UNICEF-supported multiple indicator cluster surveys. I think most of you are familiar with MIX, but it was established in the 1990s and is now one of the largest sources of statistically sound and internationally comparable data on women and children. And so, you know, I don't know that I don't have to spend much time here. I know you all know this. Why do we feel this? It's important to measure children's time use. We know that how children spend their time affects their well-being and shapes their opportunities in life. We also know that gender disparities in how children spend their time, you know, or gender disparities in time use really begin to manifest in childhood. So we feel this data collection, children's time use, is quite important to inform measuring and monitoring of the SDG Goal 5 on gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. Yet despite this, no standard data collection tools actually exist to measure and monitor children's time use. We also feel that it's quite important, or there's real value to integrate a children's time use module into MIX. This is because, you know, MIX collects as a multi-purpose household survey a wealth of information to analyze the determinants of children's time use, including individual factors you see here on the screen, such as sex, disability status, marital status, educational attainment, as well as household and environmental factors, such as residence, household wealth, looking at household composition, the emergency effectiveness of status of the household itself. And this can really help us better understand, once we integrate a time use module for children, the type of activities children engage in, whether that's sleeping, playing, schooling, etc., the time they spend on them. And then we can correlate this information with the outcomes in children's well-being that MIX already collects data on, so including gender equality, multidimensional poverty. We have a new module on youth mental health, educational achievement, of course, and it's our hope that with this data, countries can begin to use it to inform evidence-based programming and policy, including those programs that UNICEF supports. But of course, integrating a children's time use module into an existing household survey is not without its challenges and considerations. Some of these are not specific, of course, to just a MIX, but you know, there is the issue, of course, of seasonality bias, and we've heard a little bit of talk about this. We know that ideally, time use data should be collected at multiple times to ensure coverage across seasons, but this is not realistic for the mixed survey program. So as we've been developing this module, our constant question is what's feasible and realistic for the main mixed protocols. You know, and this could have implications, of course, this limitation for estimates of children's time use, in particular, the time children spend in school and related activities. Another challenge is whether we can actually yield accurate reporting of the time and duration of activities in more traditional rural settings. As Samantha was mentioning for the new module for the LFS, similarly, MIX collects data in low and middle income countries. And in many contexts, we're talking about very rural settings with low levels of literacy and education, where in some places, you know, people don't even think of time in a linear fashion. So what does this mean for actually integrating a module on time use into that type of survey? And of course, because we are integrating into a multi-purpose survey that has many questionnaires itself, already takes over 2 hours to implement per household with different modules. We include water quality testing, learning skills assessments, both what are the additional training requirements for enumerators and what is the additional respondent burden associated with integrating a time use module, again, into a multi-purpose household survey. One challenge I did want to spend a little bit of time on is this issue of self versus proxy reporting that we've already heard talked about. And this is why I was curious to understand better what some of the other countries are doing. We know, of course, the gold standard for adults would be to directly self-report your own time use, as others have said. But, you know, for children, I guess the question is in our minds, can children self-report their own time? And should they actually self-report their own time? Or would this information be better collected by proxy in the case of MIX, the primary caregiver? And we see 3 main issues at play. The first is whether social desirability is present in the reporting. You know, for example, are caregivers more likely to underreport activities that may be deemed less desirable, such as the time children spend on unpaid work activities? or overreport the flip side desirable activities, such as related to schooling. And we did a literature review when we first started this work, and there is some evidence to suggest that parents indeed, in particular, underreport girls' domestic work, and especially for younger children, as it becomes more socially acceptable for girls to engage in unpaid work as they move further up into adolescence. So some of this social desirability bias does mitigate, but it indeed, in certain contexts, is present. Another question in the serve versus proxy issue is how accurate is caregiver reporting? Essentially, do caregivers actually know what their children are doing? And we could surmise that it becomes harder to know both the activities children are engaged in and the time spent on them as children are older, for example, adolescents versus younger children. And finally, at what age can children self-report? We know from Eurostat and others that they've suggested that children as young as 8 to 10 can report. We heard examples earlier today that children that young are maybe filling out the diary or other instruments in collaboration or consultation with their parents. So it has been done, but our question was, again, keeping in mind we're working in low and middle income countries, can we have those same expectations in those settings? So, we took all of these unresolved issues to our field test and really tested several components, the stylized questions versus time diaries, the issue of the self versus proxy reporting, so the child versus the caregiver, as well as the adequacy of the time use categories that we adapted from EG-TUS. And then really these questions I've already talked about. What is the additional respondent burden? How well does this work in these types of low literacy rural settings? And our guiding criteria throughout was, this has to be relevant across a diversity of settings. Mix, again, is a multi-purpose household survey, fielded in over 100 countries. And so this has to be relevant across a diversity of settings and for policy and programming. We're constantly thinking about the trade-off between the granularity and complexity of coding and training. And then, of course, getting good data or accurate data without adversely affecting the overall mixed data quality. So we undertook 3 field tests. The first was conducted in Malawi in 2017, where we implemented a stylized questions with 2 different reference periods, and we collected that data from the primary caregiver of children 5 to 17. In 2019, based on some of the findings from the Malawi field test, including that there was a high respondent burden when we asked the stylized questions, we decided to switch and test for the first time a children's time diary. And here, with the guidance of UNSD, we really worked on categorizing or adapting the EG-TUS activities and classifications to prioritize children, while to the extent possible trying to adhere to the overall EG-TUS classification schema. Here still, though, we collected data by proxy. So again, the primary caregiver reporting for children age 5 to 17 based on, well, then, of course, there was COVID and a suspension of field test, et cetera, as Samantha herself alluded to for the ILO work. We were in the same boat, of course. And so when we were finally able to resume field test operations in 2022, we worked in Zimbabwe, and here we decided to do a self-reporting versus proxy test where we interviewed adolescents 15 to 17 years of age to report their own time use, and then interviewed primary caregivers as well. So we could begin to further tease out this issue of whom we could collect the data from, in part because of sort of these issues that arose in the empirical literature, as well as the Belize field test, where we saw huge gaps in the ability of primary caregivers to report on the on the activities and time spent on them, particularly for adolescents. So we learned many lessons. I'll only touch on a few here, but in general, we were very curious how the module would work in a mix. Respondents were quite pleased on average to speak about their day or their child's day. And, I'd say once they got over sort of the curiosity of why we actually cared about how they spent their day, even, the most, what might they might consider the mundane activities. I think Patricia talked about how people don't tend to report eating. You know, people are like, why do you want to know about how long we spent brushing our teeth or showering or eating similarly? But once, you know, they got over that curiosity, they were quite pleased to talk about it. And, you know, because it's really a different tone than some of the serious questions we tend to ask in mix, in the larger mix survey. I already talked about some of the burdens of the stylized questions. We did feel that overall the diary performed better, although detailed probing is very much needed to avoid gaps in the accounting of activities. So it was really a constant conversation with the enumerator to be aware, using the CAPI instruments. So we did build in some checks, but you know, to really go back and make sure that they had the full accounting of the 24-hour reference period of the day prior. And there was some difficulty indeed collecting accurate information. And again, these low literacy settings, you know, we received a lot of non-numeric responses, a bit, not long, that required estimation together with the enumerators after extensive probing. In terms of the child or the issue of self-reporting versus proxy, indeed, as I said, caregivers were not able to report child's activities and duration when the child was away from home, as we could surmise intuitively. But even when the children were at home, caregivers found it harder than the children to report the activities children were engaged in, because we can anticipate that obviously they're not together the entire time. They may still even be at home. And then, of course, not surprising, quality data depends on good interviewer-respondent rapport and strong interviewing skills. I mean, mix works, you know, with the national statistical offices in countries that usually have a very well-skilled set of enumerators that they work with. But still, this is not so much business as usual, because it's an interviewing technique that differs at least from the typical mixed survey questions that we tend to administer, in the sense that the time use module was really a facilitated conversation rather than a scriptive set of questions. So the module really does require, you know, extensive training. And we saw that even in the field test, as we continued to train and practice, you know, interviewers probing and activity coding skills significantly improved. And we very much would recommend, and we'll do this within the mix, the use of CAPI to minimize entry and estimation errors. So in terms of, you know, very quickly, we did, as I mentioned, reclassify and regroup the EG-TUS domain activities. We spent a lot of time on this, you know, for example, rethinking what socialization and play meant and how those categories differed for children. We also had to integrate new categories based on sort of our UNICEF country offices and what their policy and programming demands or interests are. So, for example, in Zimbabwe, even though school had resumed in person, we did test examples of in-person remote learning, so that will be ready in case of, unfortunately, another crisis that closes the schools down. And we did introduce some contextual questions based on the needs of our education partners in terms of when time spent on learning and homework, who indeed is is anybody helping the child with this, who's doing it, etc. So I will conclude with this last slide. I'm happy to say that the time use module has been finalized for children 10 to 17 years of age, and it's now available as a complementary topic in Mix 7, which runs, I believe, through 2026. And by complementary, I mean that this new mix round 7, has switched approaches. There's a set of base modules, and then there's additional modules that countries can implement, you know, in interest if they so choose, of course. Right now, children 15 to 17 will directly report their own time use. We still are going for proxy reporting by the caregiver for children aged 10 to 14, but will engage in further methodological work to lower the age of direct reporting so that children 10 to 14 can do so as well. And as part of the overall mixed package, we have a tool package for countries choosing to implement this module that includes, you know, administration guidelines, interviewers' instructions, protocols, ethical considerations for interviewing children, of course, and then tabulation plans for the children's time use data itself. Right now, we have about 6 countries who are actually implementing the module, including St. Lucia, Sierra Leone, Kiribati, Vietnam, and Mongolia. Mongolia has actually concluded its field work, so we're quite excited to see how it went and is going. And we anticipate that more countries will integrate the module as they sign up for Mix 7 over the next few years. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren. It's very, very, very interesting and showing the importance of measuring the children time use for all those reasons. I know it has been designed for the low to medium income countries, but seeing the response rate decreasing in the high income countries, I feel that those new tools will start to get promoted more and more, because I think everybody is now realizing how important it is for the future, and how looking into what the children is doing implicates how they will become adults. So very, very, very interesting. Since we only have 20 minutes, I was thinking, unless someone has a really quick question for Lauren, I would go to the next presenter and just keeping the time at the end for more questions. I'm just looking and see. Okay, so thank you very much. The next presenter is Daniel Nimka. He is a statistical officer with the European Commission. So I'm not sure how his presentation will be. He's supposed to present, so maybe within what he will present, but there's a correspondence table that was produced with comparing EG-TUS and EG-TUS. And as well, I think they have a new developed European light or in development light European country survey. So Daniel, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Can you see my presentation? Sure.
Yes.
I'm trying to share. It lost there. Okay. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation to Francesca and Iliana. Today, I would start with providing a state of play of the time use survey in Europe, and then I will just give some highlights on the work that we have just started a couple of months ago, together with my team leader Teodora Cipeva and Maria Micheli, which together with me are the EG-TUS team at Eurostat. So first of all, a bit of background for those that are not aware of what is EG-TUS. EG-TUS is the Harmonized Time Use Survey. There have been up to now 3 rounds of data collection, the 2000, the 2010, and 2020, which is currently ongoing. Unfortunately, time use survey is still conducted on a voluntary basis and only by a subset of European countries, and every 10 years. You might ask why every 10 years when you, for example, Tanya said that Italy collects every 5 years. That means that Italy would send the data to Eurostat every 10 years, but countries sometimes they might also collect intermediate data from time use surveys. But most of the countries in Europe do not have time use part of their statistical national laws. So as I said, it's based on a gentleman's agreement between Eurostat and participating countries, and I apologize for the terminology here. There is no way to change it. It has to stay gentleman's agreement because it has been written like that in the 91 when it was first great. There is a regulation, a European regulation, which included time use survey, and normally regulations make surveys mandatory, but time use still remain voluntary. So basically, the regulation says that those countries that will decide to collect time use data need to do the collection according to the EG-TUS guidelines, etc., etc. But countries are still free to decide whether to conduct or not the time use survey and to transmit the data to Eurostat. This is the most important part, the transmission of data to Eurostat, because Eurostat doesn't collect directly the data. We have our EG-TUS guidelines. The latest version is the 2018 and is at the basis of the 2020 collection wave. And of course, we have also produced data delivery guidelines which specify the number of variables that need to be transmitted to Eurostat. So far, so good. I will start with a few slides on the EG-TUS 2020. And there was a question already on the number of countries that are collecting time use data. In Europe, there are around 20 countries that are collecting or will collect time use data for the 2020 round. When I say 2020, that's the reference year, but countries can collect the data around that year. We have, for example, Estonia that started in 2019, and other countries has not even started yet. So most of the countries are EU member states, but we also have EFTA countries, Norway, and 4 EU candidate countries that are that have promised to collect and transmit the data to Eurostat. This gives you a bit of the idea of the complexity of this work. As I said, we started with Estonia in December 2019. Estonia had then to interrupt the collection because of the outbreak of pandemics, and then they resumed. Most of the countries postponed, so you will see this part here, which is basically the number of countries that postponed the start of the survey, either because they couldn't approach the respondents, either because other surveys took them priority, like example, the survey on income and living conditions, which is a mandatory one, or the census of population, the registration of population. So basically, there is this shift of countries that postponed the data collection or even canceled. We also had a few countries that canceled entirely the data collection, either because it was not considered as a priority, or because they had to refocus on their main data collections. But most of the countries in Europe, so most of the 20 countries in Europe that collected or will collect data, they will do this between 2021 and 2022, and then we have some countries that will be again in the field in 2024. We already have a few countries that transmitted the data, but as you can see, we already have countries that send the data to Eurostat, and we have like France and Turkey that hasn't started yet. So that makes the compilation of Euro-based indicators quite difficult. But we will start with groups of countries, with clusters of countries, and start to publish data, hopefully within 2024, at least for the first. So, as I said, this is just a bit of background. So why I'm here today? Basically, because we started to revise this EG-TUS guidelines, and more specifically, the activity coding list, or the ACL, which is the list of activities. We came up with 2 documents that are now submitted to our working group. The working group is a group of member states and participants from candidate countries and potential candidate countries, where we discuss and we decide on the methodological developments. So we have produced 2 documents. One is capturing unpaid work in EG-TUS. There is the proposal for a revision of the EG-TUS activity coding list, and I don't need to convince you why we are doing that. Thanks to Samantha, she already explained very well the necessity and the importance of capturing unpaid work, and not only unpaid work, but that's the let's say the focus. And then we have a proposal for a light EG-TUS, and I will discuss a bit the two documents. We did this proposals with the main aim of capturing and better measuring the unpaid work, and then contributing to the production of some indicators that measure all forms of work, because EG-TUS activity coding list is not perfect in doing that. There is another approach in the EG-TUS ACL. That's why this is one of the weakest points. The other document, okay, that presents contains a proposal for a light instrument or a light survey, including a light diary and a light questionnaire, and it is based on this revision of the activity decoding list, and will be I will give you a bit more of this description on that. So what are the objectives? The main objectives are for the revision of the ACL, because we think that that would lead to a better distinction of different forms of work along the two dimensions, so paid and unpaid work, and then productive and unproductive, and later also requiring a better distinction than between the provision of goods and provision of services. And we think we would be able to serve the needs of SDG calculation, the most famous being the indicator of 5.4.1, but also the needs of the national accounts, and especially the satellite accounts. And then, of course, the result would be also a better alignment with the national accounts, but also with the EG-TUS classification. On the other hand, we have the light EG-TUS, and we hope that this light EG-TUS or light survey would lead to a number of results. The first one would be a better response rate, and we saw that also in Italy, the shrinking response rate, and this, but we cannot talk about a trend here because we only have two data points up to the moment, the 20 and 2000 and 2010, but still we hear from countries that time use is one of the most difficult surveys, and the fact that out of 39 countries that we surveyed in late 21, 19 said that they want or they do not plan to collect time use data in the near future. That's quite telling. And then the reasons are: it's very difficult to conduct, it's very burdensome for the NSI, it requires a high budget, and also the lack of communication about the necessity to collect time use data. And that's a bit what we should also work more in the near future. So the light EG-TUS, which will be based on the revised classification of activities, so a proposal based on another proposal, would be also, it's sensitive to gender differences in remunerated and non-remunerated work. We hope would allow more timely monitoring of unpaid work and policies on gender equality. Because, as I said, we collect data every 10 years, but we need to be faster. We need to be able to produce time use data at higher frequency. Of course, what is our ambition here? Our ambition is to have more countries to conduct time use surveys. But we don't want that countries completely forget about the full-scale survey and they only use the light survey. So in our view, the light survey should be a complement, but not a substitute to the full survey. So basically, countries that already collect data at 10-year intervals might consider collecting data in the between with a light survey. And only those countries that do not collect time use data at all, they might be willing to try and collect time use data using the light survey. So this is a bit our ambition, and we are very much looking forward to receive the results from Italy, because that's the first pilot that is also going into direction of considering this dimension of paid and unpaid work and gender issues into the activities that have been foreseen. So this is a bit now the comparison between EG-TUS and the EG-TUS, the two major, or at least the two base classifications that we use. Of course, in Europe, we use the EG-TUS, which is based on the, let's say, time of the day approach. So it starts with the personal care and then goes to employment study, because there is the activities of a person following the 24 hours per day, while in EG-TUS there is more the focus or the approach of national accounts. But still, that's not the main problem. The main problem is that if we want to collect unpaid and paid, to discern between paid and unpaid work, on consumption of goods and then goods or services, then we need to see, or we need to be to go more towards the approach of EG-TUS. EG-TUS has 4 major divisions, major divisions 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the corresponding 2, let's say, first level categories, or we also are thinking to consider to call them divisions, because it's 1 digit category level. It's quite long to pronounce each time. So let's say the EG-TUS divisions 3 or 4 are household and family care and voluntary work and meetings, but there is no clear-cut distinction between the paid and unpaid work and between production of services or production of goods. Some activities are clear-cut distinguished, but some are not so well defined, and some are spread around different, let's say, major divisions. So basically, we wanted to go a bit, to make some order and to be better able to capture those dimensions that we are interested in. So very briefly, because the work has been very, how can I say, very detailed, so code by code, trying to find a one-to-one correspondence between EG-TUS and EG-TUS. A lot of changes, mainly into 2 major, let's say, divisions. First of one, we have the changes to the 1-digit level categories, or as I said, the two divisions. So to division 3, 4, and 5, 3 and 4, sorry. So basically, what we did is household and family care now will be renamed unpaid domestic services and caregiving services for household and family members. Basically, this would include only domestic and care services, so unpaid or non-productive work. Then we suggest, and I need to highlight here again, these are just Eurostat proposals, and we are now discussing with the participating countries at the working group level. As I said, there have been a written consultation, and there is now the 2 documents are now in the procedure of exchange of views. So basically, we collect the opinions of the countries, and then we need to discuss with them, and we have a working group meeting at the end of February to focus exclusively on these proposals. So basically, we have here division 4 that will be also renamed, and there will be some reshuffling or creation of new categories to better measure unpaid voluntary work. And you see the subdivision or a 2-digit level main category will be also renamed. And we are also thinking of spreading, as in EG-TUS, rather than having one major division of travel by purpose, of spreading the travel into the other major divisions according to the activities that are carried out. So if I'm doing certain activities, then there might be also travel for those purposes. So basically not having anymore a unique division collecting all the types of travel. That's again a proposal. And then the major change here is the creation of a new division, again at one digit level, which would be named production of goods for own final use, and it will be fully aligned to the EG-TUS major division 2. And that is mainly a collection of activities which are now spread across several ACL divisions. This new division will include most activities that lead to the production of goods for own final use of the same household. And this new division will, in this way, clearly encompass only unpaid and productive work activities. And we will follow the ESA concept of production, which was also mentioned previously. And as I said, these activities are currently spread across several divisions, such as Division 3, 6, and 7, and we are not able to clearly distinguish those activities from which activities represent unpaid household and or caregiving services or other types of activities such as non-productive work. So this is our major objective here, to better distinguish those activities and collect them into one in a unique division. Again, this is for discussion, and we will see what the participating countries, so the member states and other members of the working group will decide.
Aniel, sorry, we're already at 11 or already past a little bit 11. I don't know if you can just summarize something.
This is my last slide is just to say what is this EG-TUS about. A light questionnaire, household and individual. We have fixed number of questions to assure better cross-country comparability, and we have some core variables, but we don't have extra variables to which countries. We don't recommend that countries add extra variables, but again, countries are free then to decide. As for the light diary, around 25 activities plus contextual information, so the with whom, the ICT use and location, again, a fixed rather than a minimum set of activities that will be agreed at the working group meeting. And there will be, of course, a focus on paid and unpaid work, and then again distinguishing between unpaid or paid unpaid production of services and production of goods. So that was all. Thank you very much for your attention, and apologize if I went over.
Thank you very much, Aniel. That was very interesting. It's I think you can see the challenge. One thing that you point out is the lack of communication to probably government about the use of the data for all of their policies. It has been highlighted for several years, I would say. So being able to count on 20 countries, so a little bit above the half of European countries in doing this, knowing that nothing is mandatory, is I feel it's really, really good. And the work you're doing in providing a lighter solution is also probably towards what a lot of countries would like to. So the challenge will then be making countries understand that those light solution cannot replace the full survey. And I feel that now that a lot of countries will shift to the light version for ease of everything and increasing response rate and everything, we'll see the revert is having so much problem, probably going back to full surveys. But congratulations on all the work that you've done, and I'm sure others will follow. Okay, we can take some questions. Thank you, Lauren. I saw that you replied to the questions that were asked. So for some of you who haven't looked into the chat, there was a question about how is primary caregiver defined. So I think I didn't follow, but I'm pretty sure it's mostly it was mothers. Lauren, you can come on this if I'm wrong. I was trying to do both. Which age
Nope,
group
you're
is
right.
used? Okay, so which age group is used to monitor SDGs 541? I think you said it was from the 10 to 17 because it's the same as mix. The gender of caregiver, provider, proxy being monitored, since you do have everything. So yes, it is, but I guess mostly again, it was the mother. And the main lessons learned on adapting the EG-TUS. I haven't looked exactly at what you said, but if I do remember, is as you mentioned, is learning how to describe certain activities so it would be clear. I don't know if anybody has some more questions, maybe for Aniel or Samantha. Going once, going twice. Okay. Well, anyways, I think this will conclude our first day. Thank you very much, everybody, for your presentation. It was very instructive. I'm so glad to see, and I'm sure my UNS colleague are also very happy to see the turnout of this. We see the interest. We see we are all striving through the same challenges. I don't think the income of a country has an impact on any of this. Some countries, even though they are part of lower and medium income countries, seems to have better grip on having mandatory surveys for time use compared to others. So anyways, I always like this. It's refreshing, and we'll I'm just looking forward for tomorrow while our colleagues will present on the updated guidelines. So back to you, Francesca, for last word.
I think you summarized very well. I think we are all very excited, and we proved this commitment that this community, had for a few years now. So I'm very proud of all of you, all of us. I think the solutions are converging. You are all talking about EG-TUS, so I'm personally very happy. Indeed, I think this is recognized as the international standards for the production of comparable time use statistics. And I also heard a lot about the reference to the minimum harmonized instrument. So this is also something we collectively should be proud of, because it's our baby. We develop it together. And yes, I also look forward to our discussion tomorrow. Iliana will bring us into the core of the revised guidelines. You will recognize them, so no big surprise there, but I think the team did a great job in packaging the information in a way that should be self-explanatory, and hopefully with your help, we will be able also to promote it so that many more countries will embark into the production of time use data. But that's for tomorrow. The discussion will continue. If you didn't manage to unmute yourself or ask questions, don't worry, we still have 2 days to go. Come prepared, come excited, and we'll see you tomorrow in the afternoon in our time zone. I think we start at 2 New York times. You have the calendar invite, so please join us, and we look forward to continuing the discussion. thank you to all the speakers and to all of you for contributing to this exchange. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night for
Thank
those.
you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.